Okay, we'll get started here. Welcome to Committee of Adjustment. Welcome to Committee of Adjustment, everybody. Sorry for that. If you do have a cell phone with you, I'll ask you to turn your ringers off. And if you do receive a call while we are in session, please don't answer it until you leave the physical room. Now, members of the public who are with us this evening who have an interest in any application this evening, please be sure to fill your name out on the sign-up sheets that are located in the back of the room on the right-hand side. That's very important. So I'll now read the following notice. The notice of decisions for the applications we review this evening will only be forwarded to those who have either presented a written request for the decision or to those who have recorded their name and address on the forms provided at the back of the room. Furthermore, a formal request is necessary to be advised of a possible Ontario Land Tribunal hearing on these matters and in order to be allowed to make a presentation to the Ontario Land Tribunal, which is otherwise known as the OLT. So if you're following remotely and you'd like to be notified of the decisions or of any appeals that may result, please send an email to our Secretary Treasurer, Lindsay Stamen. Her email address is lsthamann@cityofkingston.ca, and be sure to include your full name and address and the file number of the application. So now I'd like to share with you the 5-part format I'll be using as we navigate through all of the applications this evening. In the first part, I'll start by introducing the application. At that point, if you are the applicant and you're with us in the room, I'm going to ask you to come to the speakers area to my right, turn on the mic, and then identify yourself by name and address for our record. And then we'll give you an opportunity to add anything further to the application, or more specifically, to make requests of the committee at that time. In the second step, I'll invite members of the committee to ask questions of staff or the applicant or their agent. And then in the third step, I'll open the public portion of the meeting. Now, members of the public can line up to the speakers area to the right or my speakers area to the left, or if you are at home, raise your virtual hand in Zoom and we will recognize you and you will be allowed the opportunity to make a presentation. And when I do recognize you, I'm going to ask you to state your full name and address for the record, and then you'll have an opportunity to make your comments or ask your questions. Now, each speaker will be allowed 5 minutes, and I'll call 3 times for speakers before I close the public portion of the meeting. Now, during the public portion, please don't expect an immediate response to your question or your comment. We are not here to encourage a two-way debate. We are here to gather information so that we can make a decision and then move on to the next application. So after I close the public portion of the meeting, the questions and comments addressed by the public will be answered by the applicant, their agent, or staff. Then in the fourth step, I'll give the applicant or their agent, the staff, to address those public comments. And then in the fifth and final step, I'll turn the meeting back over to the committee members. I'll call for a motion. Somebody will second that. We will deliberate over the application and make an ultimate decision and then move on. We rinse and we repeat. We use the same format for every application this evening. And that is about it. So I'll now call on Ian to confirm quorum.
Good afternoon, everybody. I can confirm we do indeed have quorum. Currently absent from the committee is Councillor Chinani, Councillor Hassan, and Somnath Sinha, and Jordan Tekenos-Levy.
Great, thank you very much. And I'd like to welcome Councillors Chinani and Councillors Hassan. They are 2 new members to the committee. Welcome, and should I say welcome back, Councillor Chinani. All right, so I'll now call the meeting to order at 5:34 p.m. And committee members, I'll refer you to the agenda. Now, can I get a motion to approve the agenda with the addendum? The addendum went out this afternoon, so can I call for a motion to approve? Okay, so moved by Doug and seconded by Jeff. Any discussion? So all in favor, raise your physical hands, and that is unanimously carried. Okay, thank you. All right, we now are at the confirmation of the minutes for the March 18th meeting. So if you were here and you reviewed them, can I call for somebody to move acceptance? So moved by Jeff and seconded by Grav. All right, any discussion? So all in favor, raise your physical hands, and that would be unanimously carried. Thank you. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest this evening? And I am seeing none. We have no delegations this evening. There are no returning requests for deferral, and we have no returning deferred items. So we have our first piece of business is an application for a minor variance for 931 Malvern Terrace. Lindsay, can I have you read this into the record, please?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Our first application is an application for minor variance, file number D13-006-2024 at 931 Malvern Terrace, to reconstruct a single detached house with expanded footprint. And I'll also add that the addendum contains 3 letters of support for this application.
Thanks very much. And do we have the applicant or their agent with us this evening? Yep, so you want to take any speaker area right anywhere here where there's a microphone and just tap the little tiny mouth-looking button. And we'll get you to state your name and address for the record.
Martin Mack, 184 Somerset, Bath.
Okay, welcome. And is there anything further you want to add to the application this evening?
Not at this time, no.
Okay, thanks very much. Okay, so committee members, do you have any questions for the applicant? Jeff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just to confirm, this is a reconstruction of a building on the location of a previous building, is that correct?
Yeah, so this structure was burnt down about 2 years ago, and Concord Homes, my company, purchased it from my client. So it is a rebuild of what was there. We're just adding to it.
Okay, thank you. So to follow up then, so there is already a footprint of a residential property on this spot with lawns, et cetera, that are different from the environmental wetlands beyond it. Is that correct?
So yes, there is an existing structure that was previously built many years ago, and it still is intact. We have not started any construction during the insurance phase when the house burnt down to make it safe. Before we owned it, I believe the insurance company demoed the wood structure, but the foundation is still there.
Okay, thank you. So I have a question for staff in this situation. I take it the setback has changed over the years since this the original building was built. Is that correct?
Through the chair, the setback in question, just to confirm my understanding, the setbacks are changing through this application. There's a couple of different setbacks at play. The one at issue here tonight is the setback from the water body. That setback would be changing if this application were to proceed. Also, the setback to the interior property line, that north property line, would also be changing as a result. That setback, however, does not need a minor variance. It's significantly larger than what the zone typically allows for an interior side yard. But what I would like to stress is that this setback that we're talking about from the water body, even though it is proposed to be reduced to allow this new home, the expansion of this home, the property has always been there, as the applicant has stated. It's been there for a number of years, since the early 1990s. And so that setback between the creek and the edge of that property has not changed.
Okay, so thank you. So there's one more step here. Is I take it the Conservation Authority is satisfied that there's not going to be any further impact on the environment by the reconstruction of a building on this property?
Through the chair, that is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thanks very much. Committee members, any other questions for the applicant? Yes, Gaurav.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Question for staff. So I was reviewing the ribbon of life concept or provision in the official plan, which talks about several elements as to why it's important to maintain these setbacks. I know historically, over time, people have moved things in a certain regard, but looking at neighbor properties, again, if somebody does something, it doesn't make it right. So yeah, but acknowledging all of that, there are fish habitat, plant animal habitat, wildlife corridor continuity, which has been addressed, I guess, in the report and some of the staff comments. But my question was in regards to soil erosion, water quality. I know that the Conservation Authority appears to be satisfied, but I didn't see anything specific to that. So if staff could provide a little more clarity on how that would be met, that the spirit of that provision would be met. Thank you.
Okay.
Through the chair, water quality, while not a specific component of the statement, the letter that was supplied by the ecologist, they do touch on pollution as in terms of the species, the fish species that are present in that creek. There is one fish species that they identified and said that it was quite tolerant to pollution. However, that being said, there was no specific section that dealt with pollution. What I would suggest, however, is that the ecologist, in their opinion, stated that it wasn't so much pollution that was really at issue. It was the impact arising from sediment that could wash off of any property, really. And that is really the function of all those naturalized areas between built-up areas and the creek itself. All of the bulrushes, the reeds, that shrub plant life serves a very important purpose, and that is to catch a lot of what enters into that open space prior to it even getting to the creek. So, you know, in the ecologist's opinion, it wasn't so much pollution that was really at issue. They were just wanted to make sure that sediment didn't migrate eventually over time into that creek, and then, of course, start to create issues in the channel itself.
Great, thanks. Is that okay, Gaurav? Yep. Yeah, Gaurav, again, follow up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just some clarity in regards to the soil erosion component of it, the other side of it, the land actually being lost, and are there any concerns around that?
Sorry, through the chair, if you could repeat the question. I did miss just the beginning of it.
My apologies. Just for clarity, I was asking about the soil component of the ribbon of life concept, which is the other sediment actually being deposited, but landmass being taken away over time, and if there are any concerns around that.
I am having some difficulty in chamber. It's probably just my own hearing.
Sure, okay.
Through the chair, I believe what Mr. Rihan has asked is because of the change, from my notes here, from the change of where it is close to the creek, the amount of land lost over time. I believe that was the gist of his question.
Thank you. I appreciate the clarification. My apologies to the committee member. There is, if I'm understanding correctly, there's no land lost through this application. The property is not proposed to change. All that's being done, in effect, is building a home that is larger upon that existing lot that was already subdivided, already disturbed, already had a manicured lawn. There's no land that is really being added here. If that helps at all.
Right, okay. Yep, I think I get that. Is that good? Ken, you had a question?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I have a question for city staff. Looking at the applicant's site plan, there appears to be two setbacks which operate to control the building position. The first is the setback we're dealing with tonight under the zoning bylaw, and the second is the setback of the Conservation Authority from the flood line or the flood elevation, which normally is 6 meters and is shown as 3 meters. Can staff confirm that the Conservation Authority is accepting a 3-meter setback from the flood line for the proposed building? Thank you.
Thanks.
Through the chair, a very important question. Thank you. The Conservation Authority has confirmed that they are comfortable with the reduction of that typical 6-meter offset. They are comfortable with the 3-meter that is shown here, and worked extensively with the applicant, I might add, long in advance of even submitting this application.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. Any other questions from committee members or on this? Okay, so at this point, I'll open the public portion of the meeting. Do we have anybody with us this evening wishing to speak to the application for 931 Malvern Terrace? Please raise your physical hand if you're with us in the room, or your virtual hand on Zoom. And I'll call a second time. Do we have anybody with us wishing to speak to the application for 931 Malvern Terrace? Please raise your hand. Is there anybody in the gallery? Okay.
Through you, Mr. Chair, there is one member in the public viewing gallery, but they have not raised their hand.
Okay, so I'll call one third and final time. Yes, Councillor Sanik?
Thank you. Councillor Osanik for the District of Collins-Bayridge. I'll just ask the one question that with this application, this should not cause more flooding into their backyards.
Through the chair, certainly a question I can appreciate given the rainfall that we've had lately and the fact that there are certainly some higher water levels present in that creek. There is no, and I will stress again, no impact that this particular build will have on those water levels. Representatives from the Conservation Authority have visited the site and confirmed that all those rising water levels that we are currently seeing are in no way due to any of the initial site preparation, any of the initial activities that have been taking place on these properties. It's simply a byproduct of the fact that we are in springtime. Water levels naturally do increase a little bit during spring, but to answer the question directly, no.
Okay, thanks very much for the confirmation.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, so seeing none, I'll close the public portion of the meeting and turn it back to the committee for a motion. So to be moved by Doug and seconded by Jeff. Thank you. Any discussion on this? I see none, so all in favor, raise your physical hand. We have 1, 2, 3. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 4, and opposed, and 1 opposed. And so that would carry. All right, thanks everybody. Our next application is for a minor variance for 920 William Street. Lindsay, could you read this into the record, please? Princess Street.
Through you, Mr. Chair. This is an application for minor variance, file number D13-009-2024 at 920 Princess Street, to construct a new 8-story multi-unit residential building containing 47 residential dwelling units located at the undeveloped southeastern portion of the property.
All right, do we have the applicant or their agent with us this evening? Yeah, so take a spot at the speaker's place.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. My name is Mike Keane. I'm a land use planner with Foten Consultants, and I'm here on behalf of the applicant to assist committee with any questions and to assist staff.
Very good. Do you have anything further you would like to add to the application?
I appreciate the recommendation from staff, and we're in support of their recommendation, and I hope tonight that if the committee has questions, I can just assist staff with those questions.
Excellent, thank you. Committee members, do you have any question for the applicant or their agent or staff? So Jeff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a question for staff about the parking here. This is a considerable reduction in the length of a parking space. So how does this application with its parking spaces compare to the standards for the city of Kingston now? I'm trying to figure out, is this a new, It's obviously not in compliance with zoning, but is it in compliance with designs?
Through you, Mr. Chair, you are correct. This application is currently being modernized to fit into the current Kingston zoning bylaw 2022-62 standards for length. So they're not going further beyond what's currently permitted as of right under 2022-62 for spaces accessed by perpendicular aisle of 6.7 meter drive aisle. So they're currently in compliance with the current standard. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from committee members? I am seeing none, so I'll open the public portion of the meeting. Do we have any members of the public with us this evening wishing to speak to the application for 920 Princess Street? Please raise your physical hand or your virtual hand in Zoom. Do we have any members with us or anybody with us this evening wishing to speak to the application for 920 Princess Street? Please raise your physical hand or virtual hand in Zoom. And third and final call, if you'd like to speak to the application for 920 Princess Street, please raise your physical hand or virtual hand in Zoom. And I'm seeing none, so I'll close the public portion of the meeting and come back to the committee for a motion. Somebody want to move this? Okay, moved by Doug and seconded by, okay, Councillor Hassan. Any discussion? None, so all in favor, raise your physical hands, and that is unanimously carried. Thank you. All right, our third application is for a minor variance for 32 Country Club Drive. Lindsay, could you read this into the record, please?
Through you, Mr. Chair, this is an application for minor variance, file number D13013-2024 at 32 Country Club Drive, to establish 2 aggregate stations, 1 recirculation wash bay, and a stormwater swale within the water body separation distance. Tonight's addendum contains 1 piece of correspondence for this application.
Great, thank you. And if we have the applicant or their agent, would we please have you identify yourself, please?
You were on. You were on, but then, yeah.
Perfect. Kyle Nielsen with Forefront Engineering, 1329 Garners Road.
Great, and welcome. Is there anything further you want to add to the application?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I think the only thing I'd like to add is currently the subject area in question is the maintenance facility yard for the Cataraqui Golf Course. Through this application, we're actually pulling the extent of the yard away from the high water mark. The only reason the setbacks are required is because the zoning bylaw change. We came in for a pre-app in 2021. This has kind of been a 2.5-year project in the works. It's just the setbacks changed in the meantime. The idea of the proposed building is to basically get the works that are being proposed out in the yard right now into a building, and to get a wash bay on site to just make sure there's no pollution going anywhere else on site.
Okay, thanks for that. All right, committee members, do you have any questions for the applicant or staff? I do have one, and it's, could you describe what the wash bay is for?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Currently, lawnmowers and golf carts are just washed in the open in the yard right now on site. So any oils and greases or lawn clippings, basically, they just get washed and fall to the ground. What the wash bay is, it's a recirculating wash bay that has biological treatment. So what happens is all the water washes the equipment, all the waste goes into a drain, and then it's pressurized and goes through a treatment system, so that the water comes out clean and there's no discharge outside of the system.
Interesting. And what happens with the I guess, a solid material?
The solid material is just organics and sediment, and what happens with it, it goes in a bin and it's disposed of, and it just depends on the quality of the sediment.
Okay, great, thanks very much. I have no further questions. Yes, so, yeah, Councillor Hassan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you. You will reuse that water, will be separated from the chemicals at the wash bay?
Yeah, correct. So what happens is the water goes through a biological treatment, and after that treatment, it's cleaned. There is maintenance that happens on the wash bay, but the water just continues to be recirculated.
Okay. So there are no further questions. I'll now open the public portion of the meeting. So do we have members of the public with us this evening wishing to speak to the application for 32 Country Club Drive? Please raise your hand or your virtual hand in Zoom. Do we have anybody with us this evening wishing to speak to the application for 32 Country Club Drive? Please let yourself be known. And my third and final call, if anybody is wishing to speak to the application for 32 Country Club Drive, please raise your hand. And I'm seeing none, so I'll close the public portion of the meeting and come back to the committee for a motion. So moved by Councillor Hassan and seconded by Doug. Any discussion? Okay, so all in favor, raise your physical hands. And that is unanimously carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
And our final application this evening, number D, is for a minor variance, 655 Princess Street. Lindsay, could you read this into the record, please?
Through you, Mr. Chair, this is an application for minor variance, file number D13-016-2024 at 655 Princess Street to reduce the amenity area.
Great, thank you. And do we have the applicant or their agent with us?
Hi, committee. My name is Emma Stuckey. I'm a registered professional planner with Arcadis, 61 Hyperion Court, Kingston.
Very good. Welcome. Is there anything further you want to add to the application this evening?
I know I'll just say we're supportive of staff's recommendation, and I'll reiterate that the purpose of the variance is to improve the lifespan of the building envelope, and that the existing balconies, although being removed, will be converted to Juliet balconies.
Okay, very good. Thank you. All right, committee members, do you have any questions for the applicant, agent, or staff? So we see none, so we'll open the public portion of the meeting. Do we have any members of the public wishing to speak to the application for 655 Princess Street? Please raise your physical hand or your virtual hand in Zoom. Do we have any members, anybody wishing to speak to the application for 655 Princess Street? Raise your physical hands or virtual hand in Zoom, and I'm seeing nobody. So we'll close the public portion of the meeting and come back to the committee for a motion. So moved by Vincent, Councillor Sinani, and seconded by Jeff. All right, any discussion? No discussion. So all in favor, raise your physical hand. And that is unanimously carried. Thank you. All right, moving on in the agenda, we have no motions. We have no notices of motions. There are no pieces of other business, no correspondence, with the exception of that was brought in at the beginning of the meeting. Date of the next meeting is Monday, May 13th. At 5:30 p.m. And so now we're looking for an adjournment, a motion to adjourn. So moved by Doug and seconded by Jeff. Okay, all in favor, raise your physical hands. And that's unanimously carried. So the meeting is adjourned at 5:58 p.m. Thanks, everybody.